What is up, IDP Army? It's your man, Jordan Rains, at 50 Shades of Drunk if you are on Twitter, and we are back again with another episode of the IDP Army podcast, where, of course, we are talking mostly IDP, all fantasy football. You guys already know. But if you don't know, it's your first time here. Appreciate you coming. Today, you got a good show. We're doing a 32-team preview show series, so we're going to be going over the Atlanta Falcons today. You can go back and check out the Arizona Cardinals one. We just posted that. We're basically going to be talking about this team, their outlook for the year, all their skill position players, kind of where we're ranking them, ADP variances versus ranking variances, things like that. So, you could do the show a favor. You can go leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. That would be awesome. Please go do that. We want to get our reviews up. I know there's hundreds, if not thousands of people listening to the show between YouTube and between all the podcast channels. So please, we need to get our review numbers up, guys. All right. We want to be some hitters out here. So if you can do that for us, we appreciate it. But yeah, without further ado, let's just go ahead and dive on into the Atlanta Falcons. Today is January, my ass. It's June 21st. I just finished the Arizona Cardinal show. I'm doing this show the same day. I'm going to release it, I think, a day or two later. But anyway, Atlanta Falcons last year, 2020, was a shit show year. Dan Quinn got the hell out of there after a 4-12 season. It was ugly. They put up some yards. They had some fantasy relevant people, Matt Ryan being, mainly among them, and Calvin Ridley. Hayden Hurst, people really were all excited about him last year coming in. He was ranked way too high, I thought, coming into the year. He didn't really do much. But they did add some things to this team. It's not the same team as it was. Todd Gurley's gone as well. They brought in Mike Davis, which we'll get to him shortly. Key draft picks. They drafted Richie Grant, defensive back, safety. They need a versatile safety. He looks like he could be that for them. And with the number 4 overall pick, I believe they took Kyle Pitts, who we've talked about him on this show before. I'm sure you've heard about him ad nauseum, but you all know who Kyle Pitts is. They had a Kyle Pitts. A week and a half ago, they traded Julio Jones. So this team is not the same team it was in 21. They brought in Arthur Smith, the head coach. He's their new head coach from the Tennessee Titans. So this team got a shakeup, and a much-needed shakeup, but they still kept a lot of their core pieces there. Matt Ryan, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, former MVP, been to the Super Bowl, coulda, shoulda, maybe woulda, shoulda won it. Couldn't pull it off. Calvin Ridley, one of the best young wide receivers in the league. The running game's a little suspect, but let's go ahead and talk about Matt Ryan. Obviously, he's going to be their starter. He's getting a little older, but Matt Ryan, right now, he's being drafted as quarterback 17 on Underdog. If we're looking at their ADP as of today, that's 132, and really that's going to come down to the fact that he doesn't have like really any rushing side. He's one of the last kind of those pocket passer kind of guys, these guys that are they can unload it for, 4,500, maybe 5,000 yards. Kirk Cousins a little bit like that, but true pocket passers are kind of a dying breed. Matt Ryan being one of the last guys out there, but he's really good. We've seen him put up top 5 seasons. He's been a quarterback one multiple times. Last year was a little bit up and down for them, like I said. Fantasy Pros a little bit more bullish on him as far as his rankings. They have him as consensus quarterback 14. That seems a little bit more fair to me. With the weapons that they have, with the defense being suspect, it's going to be more of the same with him throwing. We saw how efficient Arthur Smith was with Ryan Tannehill. So I think we're in for a good year for Matt Ryan. So if you guys have him, I think he could return a lot better value. He definitely has the upside to return better value than his ranking in redraft at 14 or his best ball ADP at quarterback 17. So you can feel good about Matt Ryan. Calvin Ridley, world beater. Calvin Ridley, world beater. Wide receiver 5 right now on Underdog ADP, coming off the board at pick 20. Fantasy Pros also in line with this ranking for redraft as a wide receiver 5 right now. He's incredible on a points per game basis. The ability for Calvin Ridley to boom. If you guys have listened to me for a long time, I'm very much a ceiling over a floor kind of player. And Calvin Ridley is a guy he struck me as that early. We saw his rookie season. He came out. He has a nose for the end zone. He plays a lot bigger than he is. I mean, he's not a very large receiver. He's not big like Julio, but he plays with tenacity. He kind of reminds me of Stephon Diggs or Tyreek Hill. Just he's a go-getter. And he can go deep. He can beat double coverage. He's got really good routes. I mean, there really isn't any holes to his game, in my opinion. I've been bullish on him since last year. Got him on a couple of teams in Dynasty, which I felt good about because the hype has finally sort of caught up to really the upside that I think we all kind of knew was there. But because Julio was there, we were a little worried about. Now I know Kyle Pitts coming in is going to take a little bit of that ceiling off, I feel like people think, but I still like Calvin Ridley as to finish as a top 5 wide receiver, top 6 wide receiver. The passing volume is going to be there. This team, like I said, the game script's going to dictate that they pass. I have a feeling because this defense needs some work still. So Calvin Ridley at 5, incredible player. He's a little bit older when he came into the league as a prospect, but he's a guy you want on your teams this year, next year. ADP is high, but in the second round, of an underdog draft, I mean, that's good. And if you are looking to stack him, you don't have to pay up for Matt Ryan. You can take, Calvin Ridley, and you can kind of wait around on Matt Ryan for a while, unless somebody gets crazy and takes Kyle Pitts. This brings me to Russell Gage. Now, here's a player that, I was listening to the Underdraft fantasy show actually last week, right after or 2 weeks ago when when Julio got traded. When Julio got traded, Russell Gage was the wide receiver 65. As of today, he's 63. As of today, he's wide receiver 53. He's moved up 10 whole spots. Okay, and I like that reflection of his ADP. I feel like some people are trying to give all the volume to Kyle Pitts, but Russell Gage, maybe he wasn't, we look at him as just a jag, but, he had 110 targets last year. And this is a really good stat pool here from Haram Bavender from the Offensive Points podcast. You guys need to be listening to that as well on our feed. Russell Gage had 4 touchdowns on 110 targets, which is the exact same as Tyler Boyd, who's currently ranked as the wide receiver 35. Okay. And Tyler Boyd might be the 3rd or 4th option on his team, depending on how you look at it. We're looking at Russell Gage as a 3rd, option, probably at worst on his team. There's a little bit of a discrepancy there. There's a value. There's a little bit of a missing value piece there. So I'm picking up Russell Gage. I've been drafting him since before Julio was traded in Underdog because he was so cheap, and the upside I saw it was there. He's already moved up some spots, so continue to draft him at that ADP, in my opinion. Fantasy Pros ranking 63, a little bit of a discrepancy there as well. So the market's catching up to what they think his upside is and where he can land. The rankers are still a little bit behind, though. If you're worried about Zacchaeus, he's kind of, they're supposed to be their 3rd. And I also the graphic I have right now up on YouTube is a little bit old. It has not accounted for the fact that Julio's gone. But if you're looking at Zacchaeus, he's not even a best ball play, really. If you're really wanting to stick to that Atlanta stack, you could, but he's not even ranked right now on Fantasy Pros. So, let's go ahead and talk tight ends. Kyle Pitts, he's consensus tight end 4 right now in Fantasy Pros. The hype is real. And the ADP is real. Coming off the board at 48, okay? 48 overall in Underdog. He's never played an NFL snap. Tight end 4. I'm out at that price in best ball, sorry. I mean, that's insanity. He hasn't done anything yet. When I can get guys that I know have done something, I'm always going to take the known talent in production. Coming off the board at 4, that means he can't be coming off ahead of Mark Andrews. You even have Dallas Goedert. You have Hawkinson, Ingram. There are players after him who have had as much hype as him, or similar type of hype of him, that have actually played in the NFL that he's going ahead of. I'm out on Kyle Pitts at that right now in redraft, and I'm out on Kyle Pitts at that in Underdog. That's just me. In Dynasty, I love Kyle Pitts, but I'm not. I mean, that's a 5th round pick, a 4th round pick. We know even in the best of worlds, it's so hard to hit on tight end. And again, this is a team going through some changes. They're bringing him in. We don't know what that's going to be like. So that's a little high for me. Hayden Hurst. And again, this is a team that brought in Hayden Hurst. You guys remember all the hype Hayden Hurst had last year. I mean, I hope you do. I mean, I remember getting a note in Fantasy Pros when I had him ranked to like tight end 17. It was like, oh, we need to take your rankings down because you're too low on him. And I was like, he's not going to finish that high. And he didn't. So it's just a little bit too bullish for me right now for him for this year. But I think that he does help Matt Ryan and the rest of the offense in general. So we are going to take a quick break, IDP Army, and when we come back, we are going to talk about the running back situation and then this defense, and then we will get you out of here. What's good, IDP Army? It's Jordan Rains, and quickly I want to tell you guys today about the big project I've been working on, the Ultimate IDP Index. The Ultimate IDP Index is the #1 resource for IDP fantasy football players, rookies or veteran for 2021. Inside, you're going to find contract information, tiered IDP rankings, detailed player production profiles going back to 2017, suggested trade values, and a whole lot more, including unique write-ups, unique videos that will only be available within the Ultimate IDP Index. But to me, probably the most valuable thing is the fact that the trade value estimation tool is going to be updated weekly, so you'll always be aware of what a player is worth in your Dynasty League at any given moment. So what are you waiting for? Sign up for the IDP Army Patreon today. Patreon.com/the IDP Army. Join the Black Ops tier and join the IDP Army today. All right, we're back. Go check out the Patreon, guys. The Discord's hopping. We're always talking about, dynasty values and players and all that stuff. So get over there in that. But let's get back to the Atlanta Falcons. All right. So next player I want to talk to you about is obviously the situation I want to talk about is the running backs. We got to talk about Mike Davis. Guys, gals, Mike Davis right now, his ADP is 50 and Underdog. Okay. His running back 22, Fantasy Pros rank at running back 24. I'm out. I don't want Mike Davis. And it's not an indictment on Mike Davis, but at the same time, like it kind of is. 165 rushes last year. Okay. Like think about that. Like what we remember about Mike Davis and why we feel so fondly and so strongly about Mike Davis is because of what he represented. He represented cheap Christian McCaffrey to teams that didn't have Christian McCaffrey. There's an emotional piece to this puzzle that is intact here. He got 70 targets last year, which is almost doubled his entire career up to that point, which he's been in the NFL for 5 years now, 6 years now. So that was a lot, and that was the situation he was put into. He caught 60 or 59 of those. He didn't really do a lot with them. 373 yards, only 642 rushing yards last year on 165 attempts. And that was when he was primarily the main guy, So now he's going to a situation where, like, look at last year with Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley had more rushing yards and more rushing attempts last year with Atlanta. We weren't happy with him. He had 35 targets, which isn't bad, It's not bad. He had 164 receiving yards. Honestly, I think, and this might make people upset, but I just feel like Mike Davis' ceiling this next year is going to be what Todd Gurley did essentially last year. I don't think he's going to necessarily get the touchdowns Todd Gurley ended up with. Gurley ended up with 9 rushing touchdowns. But I think the passing work is going to help the score, kind of buoy the score. But I mean, we're talking about a player who, this was his best season ever last year at 28 years old in Carolina, a different team in a system that force feeds their running backs by default. So that's, I just feel like a lot of his production was contrived and manufactured, and I'm out as a top 24 running back. I don't want Mike Davis on my team. I'm sorry, Mike Davis, my guy. They have too many other red zone options right now. This team's going to be playing from behind a lot because we're about to talk about this defense, which is not going to stop anybody. So he's not going to get game scripts where he just gets to pound out the fourth quarter and he's getting a bunch of carries. They're going to be throwing a lot, I have a feeling. So I'm kind of out on Mike Davis, unfortunately. If you can get him really, really cheap, he's more of a flex play for me. I just don't see the upside. I don't see the ceiling. Even in best ball, his best week will probably be once or twice when he scores 2 touchdowns. That's just kind of how I feel about Mike Davis. Take it as you will. That's one man's opinion. So let's move on to the linebackers for this team. Let's talk about Deion Jones. All right, a lot of people love Deion Jones, rightly so. One of the better coverage linebackers in the NFL, which right now coverage is at a premium when it comes to the skill set that's looked at and appreciated the most. But he's been a little bit banged up the last couple of years. But this last season, Deion Jones had 106 total tackles. Not a huge number. You thought it'd be a little bit more, but he made up for it in impact plays. 25 impact plays, 9 tackles for loss, 6 pass deflections. He was all over the field. 2 interceptions, another touchdown. Interesting fact about Deion Jones, he scored a touchdown every single year he has been in the NFL. He has a touchdown scored 4 every year he's been in the NFL, which is kind of a fun defensive stat. I anticipate the tackle number for Deion Jones going up this year with Dan Quinn leaving. I don't think he's going to blitz as much as he did. He had a career high blitz or pass rush snap share this year. So I think the tackles are going to the tackles are going to go up, which is going to make up for the fact that the impact plays might go down a little. But I still really like Deion Jones a lot coming into this year. In the index right now, I have him in my tier 3. That's a every week starter for you. And in my Fantasy Pros rankings right now, I have him as linebacker 15 for the year. I don't know that he's ever going to be able to really compete with some of the guys that have shown themselves to have the floor and the ceiling year in and year out, like the Joe Schoberts, like the Blake Martinez's, like the Darius Leonards, obviously, and the Devin Whites. But Deion Jones does enough to be he's right on those guys' heels. And if I miss out on those guys, Deion Jones represents the weekly upside, maybe not as high a clip, but the weekly upside and the floor of a player that is never going to leave the field. He has a chance to play potentially a career high snaps. So I'm in on Deion Jones this year. Moving over to his stablemate, we have Foyesade Olakun. He's a good player. It took him a little while to get on the field, but he ended up finishing, Deion Jones and Olakun this last year finished as top 15 linebackers together as a tandem. That kind of gives you an idea of the defensive snap share that the Falcons were already playing last year. Olakun right now in my rankings, linebacker 23. That's a top 24 linebacker. I don't really see the competition for him. They did draft Michael something, I believe is his name. But I think that this is Olakun and Deion Jones's job again for at least this upcoming season. So no real concerns there. Both of them are long-term assets in IDP. I think they're going to last a couple of years. And for this year, they're going to be top 24, 25 options for you. Let's talk about the defensive line position. Now, Grady Jarrett, good defensive lineman, a good interior guy, but he's kind of in that third tier in my mind. It's Aaron Donald, it's DeForest Buckner. And then, Chris Jones on a good year can hit that area. But then next it's Grady Jarrett and and Chris Jones for me. The tackle floor is not as high as it is with DeForest Buckner, and the upside is not as high as it is with Aaron Donald. That being said, he still is a yearly starter because he's productive. He does have 52 tackles this last year. 69 the previous season, which was a really high number, and maybe that's why we feel so fondly about him, because he did put up some big numbers the year before. But 52 tackles the year before that, 55. So that puts his tackle floor right around outside of that outlier season in that 55 area. You like that. He can get up there in tackles for loss. 8 in 2020, 12 in 2019. So, and he did just get a big deal. So he's one of the guys he's going to carry over. He's going to stay on the team. I think they're going to keep him on the team as a foundational piece for Arthur Smith coming in. So not too worried about him in a defensive tackle, league where you're specific. He's going to be a top 5 option for you, in my opinion, for dynasty and redraft. Dante Fowler, one of my guys for last year. I mean, the story with Dante Fowler is he just didn't exist last year, basically. He was injured early and he just couldn't thrive in that system. There was a lot of things that went wrong. I'm not bullish on him, but he is definitely a late round upside pick. And if he's not going to get drafted in your redraft leagues, he's a guy I'm going to monitor on the waivers to, consider picking up late in the or early in the season. If I see anything, any signs of life, I'm going to pick him up, because he did have a top 5 season 2 years ago with the Rams. Situation was different. We had, Coach Wade Phillips there. He did get to play next to Aaron Donald. And the Rams were just really good that year, so he was able to be in good situations. Not the case last year for Atlanta. And like I said, he did have the injury. So we'll see about that. And now the defensive back position, the Atlanta Falcons got rid of basically almost all their safeties are gone. Keanu Neal left, Ricardo Allen left, and Damonte Casey left. So those were the three primary starting slot corners / safeties for the last 2-3 years. They drafted Richie Grant. He should immediately start. And then Duron Harmon, a veteran from the Lions, is there. He's a guy that you could look at as well as a starting at free safety projected right now. I like Richie Grant. Right now he's defensive back 34 in my rankings for the year. I don't know if they're going to put him out there immediately and he's going to be able to perform. I don't really know exactly what he's going to be doing, but I think that he's, with the capital he's got and the way this defense is going to be on the field a lot, I think he's going to represent a good floor. I don't think this is going to be an overly disruptive defense, so I don't know that the impact plays are necessarily going to be there for a guy like Richie Grant as a rookie, which also brings me to A.J. Terrell. Tough year last year, had some COVID issues, a rookie cornerback. He's going to play a lot of snaps, though, and he's in a division that likes to air it out. He's got Tom Brady in the division. Jameis Winston's going to be in the division. Sam Darnold. There are turnovers to be had, and they're going to be playing they're going to get thrown on a lot. I have a feeling they're going to be in shootout type of games. And this defense is going to be like butter. Honestly, I really don't see this defense stopping a lot of people. So again, that's kind of circles back to why I'm not really high on Mike Davis. But I think that the amount of snaps that this defense is going to be able to accrue means that you're going to have some good IDP options. Those guys all included, as potential weekly starters. So that will do it for today's show, y'all. Appreciate you, IDP Army. If you have any questions or comments, go check out the idparmy.com. Follow me on Twitter at 50 Shades of Drunk. Leave a comment on YouTube. Subscribe, hit the bell, and we will be back next or in a day or two with another episode. We're going to keep running through these teams. And yeah, appreciate you, IDP Army. Until next time.
Let the rain hit the sand. Build a house on a rock, got a plan. Gotta get stocks, keep them bands. Hear the clock tick, blades on the fan. Used to be mundane on a Monday. Now you have fun day on a Sunday. Cause you switching it up and you living it up. You ain't getting enough.